Okay, we'll open the November 1st ordinance committee meeting at 5:31, and to apologize for the delay. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any adjustments to the agenda? Public to speak on a non-agenda item.
Hey, that's me.
It might be.
We just wanted to kind of scoot in here, and I know that this, I just learned from Marty that this isn't something that's on the agenda yet, but just ahead of any of that happening, just kind of get some thought processes going on what it might look like to rework the sign ordinance. Of course, that's why we're here. So there has been a lot of work done on section 38.55 and its the rest of its definitions and chapters, and I have copies for everybody here. And there are some explanations at the top of, you know, what the current ordinance is, and that the red wording is adopted from state statutes, and green is new wording to be included that is specific to Rangeley, thinking about dark sky compliance, thinking about how we want the character of our town to look, but just working forward on how to keep the character and the aesthetic of our beautiful town, but also thinking about the future of technology and how as businesses we need to kind of corral that and make sure we're staying ahead of what could happen without really mentioning it. And you know, one of the things that I noticed as I was going through this sign ordinance is that some of the wording is, because of course it was created before some of this technology was available, some of the wording is vague enough that if we had somebody super clever or with a very deep pocket and a good lawyer, you know, we might be seeing something bright and shiny and flashing on the side of somebody's building someday. So I think that this, you know, corralling some of that would be really wise, and trying to make sure that we're keeping that dark sky compliance as well. I have a letter that's an introductory letter that I only have one copy of because they have original signatures of other business owners who are also in support of working on this document in the future and making sure that we're looking to the future as well, so.
Okay, so these, just to be clear, these are your suggested language changes.
These are suggested language there, well, the state statutes are included here as well,
Right,
so
but
that's
the additional language.
There's additional language that is, yes, suggested changes. There is some wording from the state statutes that I would also, has been crossed out because it's not appropriate for Rangeley. It would allow far too much leeway in what's.
If it's state statute, we can't play with it and pick and choose it, but
Well, what would happen is,
understand.
well, the state statute, the words that are crossed out, we can, as a town, additionally restrict
Yes,
what
yeah,
we're
very
saying.
well aware of how the ordinance process works and how we do home rule. So I just want to make very clear that that is language that you are suggesting. Anything outside of what is state statute is language you're suggesting be incorporated when that does get in front of us. That's what you're asking us to look at.
Yes, it's a working document, nothing that I think there needs to be lots of conversations around this.
Yes, and we intend to have those. We know that it's one of the things that needs to come back in front of us. We're being tasked with that by the Board of Selectmen. So we do know that that is in our future.
Okay,
Perfect.
great.
So if you want to give copies to Marty, we will absolutely take those. I appreciate the time and effort put into that. We do appreciate all feedback. Any questions from the board today?
No.
Okay, any additional feedback, guys?
No, that's all we have.
Perfect, thank you
Thank
again so
you.
much, we appreciate it. All right, so we will review the minutes of the September 6th regular meeting.
Accept the minutes.
Oh, there's a motion by Nancy, second by Val. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Okay, do we have any correspondence? I didn't see any. Perfect, okay.
At the front of your packet, There, I was tasked with getting some definitions at the last meeting. And you will see that those are the definitions I was able to find. Additionally, I looked for negative visual impact as
did
well
too.
as just visual impact. I was able to find some vague references to visual impact, but nothing that specified what negative is. Obviously, you can use your own connotation for what negative is versus positive, so.
Yeah. That was the issue.
That's at the very beginning of your packet from behind the minutes.
Now, Marty, have these been included, at this time, these are not included in this
No.
current draft? Okay. So folks, I just want to, I know that we have 2 other ordinances in front of us. I know that everybody's hoping we get the vendors one at least in front of the next meeting. I think it's very, it would be very rigorous of us to even think we could get the sign one to the next annual meeting. I think that's more like a November. That's gonna take some serious work. We're gonna need to
make that a special.
yeah, I think that'll end up having to be a special town meeting. So in the interest of making sure that we are moving forward, I don't know if everybody wants the opportunity to review the alternative energy as it's been presented. If we want to make any kind of motion that any of this language get included in it, because I would like to see the next motion on this be to send it to the attorneys. I think we've done extensive work on this document. Everybody has had fabulous input to this point. I think we're working with a great document, and we need to now kind of just let go of the reins and move it forward so that we aren't sitting kind of circling ourselves back around.
Yeah, I think some of the comments that I had are, could go to, they're more like a lawyer.
Okay,
So,
perfect, okay,
yeah, when I think about what,
okay,
that's gotta be internally consistent, but that's what a lawyer would do.
And
perfect.
Marty's statement that, you know, trying to find, I looked also to find negative visual, and it's just, they talk about it, but you don't get an objective definition of it, so it's like, I guess if we keep that language in there, we're gonna have to live with that. I mean, it's one of those realities, because all the other places don't put it in per se, they don't define it, they just say, well, you might kind of know what it is, and there was one that gave about 15 criteria, by the time you're through, you're like.
Another part of that is that the lawyer may say that, yes, it needs to be defined, or it may not.
May not be, exactly, so I'm saying, so I think we just have to let that go, lacking any hard objective definitions that can be found, so that would be.
So, is there any of these definitions that you want to see put in this before it goes to the attorney?
I do like the first one, actually, that you have there, something I don't think we thought about, where page 1209, I guess it'd be 7-1, whatever. Where it says to allow wildlife patches, benches through it. In other words, I like that whole little definition there, kind of thing, where it says fencing requirements, just if it was, you know, just to be mindful that, I thought it was good, but. That's just me.
So you would like to see 7.1.I.4 to have
Have that wording. Because we talk about panel array and modules and building and structures and stuff, but this gives it just a little more, that certain size ground mounts, you know, the solar energy system to allow for wildlife passages and fences. Should be evaluated by a minimum of 5 inches to allow passage of small terrestrial animals, like we haven't cut off their.
Yeah, I think that what that's saying, as I understand that, is if you're gonna put a fence in, this is how it should be. It's not saying you have to have a fence.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's giving consideration.
Okay, so would you like to say fencing around CSEC,
Yeah.
shall be required at the planning board's discretion? Fencing should be elevated by a minimum of 5 inches to allow for passage of small terrestrial animals. Would that be sufficient?
Yes.
I think
that'd be
that
fine.
Yeah.
That works the language in perfectly.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion for that?
Second.
Motion by Scott, second by Nancy, all those in further discussion, all those in favor? That was unanimous, sorry, I was jumping. the gun.
That's okay. We appreciate that.
And I think that the dark skies, just saying it and not defining it, because it'll be in another section, is good. Because there are plenty of these solar things where the lights go up at night. And that's just not right. So just a comment about that, and then we'll deal with the dark skies in another section. If we haven't done it already, I can't remember. I know there's some talk about it in the lighting ordinance, and I don't know what happened with that.
Well, don't we have some lighting, well, lighting ordinances right here, section 38.
Yeah, she put it in underneath, see where it says 38.2? I
That
think that was
is the
for letting
lighting
us know that it is addressed in the chapter 38.
Okay, so just a
Yes.
reference saying, yes, that's it. And it should be dark skies compliant.
You want that added to 6, or you just think that that's sufficient with it already being referenced in the zoning?
What do you, I mean, I don't know, because I didn't, you know,
I
Do
think,
you want something
I
stated
think she
in
referenced that
just
section.
light should be compliant with the lights. I don't know.
yeah,
Like,
that would go with that, because
Don't ask
that
them for
way it
words.
keeps everything tied
Right,
together
yes.
without putting any additional.
Just know that there's another section that deals with lighting, not just in here,
Yeah.
that's all, yeah.
So that was a motion from Val to include language that would say compliant with section 38.82.
Whatever it is, yes.
I moved.
Second.
Okay, sorry, motion by Nancy, second by Val. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Wonderful, thank you so much. That covers the lighting.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you for that information on the bonds, Marty. That does help figure out what they're, you know, the idea that they won't write it for 20 years, you have to write it every year, is what's called in.
This point with these changes, we don't have to come back again. Okay, so I move that,
Okay.
that this is forward in the law.
That was a motion by Val to move the alternative energy ordinance with noted changes as discussed this evening to the attorneys. Second by Nancy, any further discussion? All those?
Yeah, no,
I
I
hear
like what I'm
discussion.
saying, but I just wanted to make sure we were, there was some language in blue or red, that's what I was looking through this, and I was, oh, yeah.
Those were
Is the
added.
blue stuff that was just added to highlight it for us,
Yes.
so it's not some,
Yes.
okay, it's what we discussed last time.
Right.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that's, and I noticed one other thing, on 1204, the chart is still empty, is that going to be a problem?
That's gonna have to be addressed by the planning board first.
Okay, I mean, so we're passing it on, knowing that it's not filled in, and you can't really vote on this until you have it completed, so it's gonna
Right.
come back at some point.
Yes.
Okay, then with that, I agree we should move it on.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Okay, now, oops.
That's, no.
I'm like, do I have my phone on?
Right.
Okay, now, new business. I know we don't have anything in front of us right now, but I do know that the Board of Selectmen have directed us to take care of the vendors. Yeah, I noticed it wasn't on the agenda though, so. The vendor's license. So that is,
New business?
is that new business then? It is. Yep. And then we intended, the Board of Selectmen intended to vote to move the sign ordinance to us as well. So we're
Isn't
gonna.
there something else in here that we're still? What is this?
I don't think so.
I thought there was some other thing that we were halfway through. That was
Yeah.
it, just the vendors?
We got moved
Okay.
off short term to do this.
Okay,
That's
I
what
think
I
that's
said.
the last
so
one.
that's good, okay, I thought there was something else.
No, not yet.
I don't think so.
So we haven't officially been assigned to sign one, but at the next board meeting, I suspect that will get done because there's been some generation, some conversations that have generated the need for that to be addressed. So what is Val the only one who came prepared with her vendor's license?
I did and handed out, we're all looking at it.
I just got home, so it was sent mail and.
No, it was a long time ago.
No, it was
That was-
a couple meetings back.
Yeah.
Hold on, make it.
Because we didn't meet last time,
Right, right.
so it was one before
Because
that.
we went
Never say
over
never.
it
There's one
once,
September 6th one that was given. Do you want me to make copies of this very quickly?
Yes, please. Is that the current, that's the current one, right? So while Marty is making copies of that, just,
I got
just to kind of discuss the high points, or rather points that they're asking us to look at, obviously, is the document in its entirety. Typical to our fashion, it's a little vague. Leaves a whole lot of room for interpretation. And then they would like us to look at, defining different layers of vendors, and of course, the cost of the vendor's license came up, but the Board of Selectmen set the cost, so that's not anything that'll be in front of us, but we could make suggestions if we want. I'll be honest, I think the cost right now is fair, because I get there's some argument that they only get to use this, their license for certain times of the year, but local businesses pay for their storefronts and they pay for their, so I'm not,
Oh, yeah, you gotta pay.
yeah, so I'm not in line with the argument that the rate is too much at this time, but that's certainly something we can make a suggestion to the board if we feel strongly enough that that needs to be.
I guess. I have just things written here. I don't know if we just talked about these things. I don't think we did any things. It didn't come back, so.
But we had
There's a comment that says show state permit for victualers. Is there a separate victualers thing?
Not anymore. There used to be victualers licenses. That
So
is
now
not,
they're under this.
yes,
So then we should add that thing, which is show state permits for victualers, because you need special permits for that, in addition to just selling stuff you've made someplace else, right? Because it's like making on site versus made off site. Isn't that what the difference is? I don't know. I'm not.
where, what's the, I'm sorry, where are you referencing?
No, it's notes I wrote from last
Oh,
time, right at the
okay.
beginning. 'Cause there was something about that there were victualers, I can't even say the word, licenses. Because
Well-
they have to be
That are
permitted.
different than this.
Yes,
Yeah, well, the victualler's license, isn't that a state granted license? It's not one that we grant, because they
right,
have
no,
to
it's not
get.
something we
And
grant.
so what you're saying is you want to see that, I should think before they get their
They gotta show.
permit, they would have to have proof of
Right.
if they are doing a hot dog cart, just.
Right,
So they've been
That
technically
they've been
licensed by the
licensed
state to
You
do
just
it.
want
Yeah.
to see that they
Yeah,
have.
any kitchen would have to
you
be
know.
licensed by the state. so they
Right.
would
Right,
have
that's
to
all I'm
do
saying.
that.
You gotta
So
show.
what you're
yeah,
saying
state
is-
license.
But that should just be an
Kitchen, yes.
you could have that in the application
Right,
process,
yes,
and that way,
yes.
because truthfully, having those things up, I mean, it's.
No, but they should have
They get
their
messy.
license, because
Right,
for
I don't-
that
I
in
don't
practice,
think-
I had to have a license before I opened up, and I had to show it
Right,
to the town. I had to prove that I'd been inspected by the health department, fire department, everybody, we're good, so they should have one.
yes, that's.
Especially if they got a kitchen.
So I just think we should say that in here, that it isn't like if you're a vendor, you don't get to do that.
Proof,
Yeah,
proof of main licensing.
Right, state license.
For,
As part of the requirements, so it should be down here in requirements, all vendors shall meet the following, if you're. Whatever the definition of a victualler is, as opposed to a vendor who's just selling jewelry or whatever, but if it's somebody who's cooking,
You're
They gotta have
operating
their
a
state
kitchen
license.
out of your
right,
vehicle and or tent
or whatever,
or
yeah.
whatever. Now, how does that go
Except
with like
except that,
Strawberry Festival and all that?
I was gonna say
Right, I don't know,
nonprofits are gonna
that's
be,
all in here.
nonprofits are not under that, like, say that.
If they're selling food, you should,
Selling
food is
If
food.
they're doing it at the, say down at
The
the park,
church.
That's what I
July
just
4th
said.
or something like that, or July 3rd down in the park, you have the Dive, and
The
you have all
Strawberry
these
Festival.
organizations there, I'm not sure that any of them have ever, they're not, that's so.
Nobody's had any food poisoning yet, but does that mean we shouldn't be?
I think we can also be I think there has to be a bit of a balance here, I'm not saying I'm not concerned about people, but at some point we can overregulate, and
Right.
that's what we have to, that's what we're striving to look at.
How about, for example, the town does excuse a liquor license for nonprofits when you're doing a one-time event. If you're a nonprofit and
No.
you're selling food, a one-time event,
You still need it from the state, you don't get a one-time pass for a license.
We can't exempt a liquor
the liquor.
license. No,
Yeah.
yeah, those are state
that's a
driven.
main state,
Right.
that's not us.
But with regards to, so I mean, this is really kind of the nuts and bolts that we need to get into, because of the way we have it written right now, it's a big broad stroke across anybody who sets up temporarily.
Right.
And I think that's what we
Right,
need to
right.
kind of peel
And
apart.
then, like what I just said, there's misnomers out there, because that's what I was told by the library board. That when we ran our event, we didn't have to have any sort of license or any to serve alcohol.
Interesting.
Well, you weren't selling,
No, we weren't selling.
that's the difference.
Okay,
Okay, well, that's what, okay, well then,
Liquor license.
so then that needs to be clear, because some people go, wait a minute.
Yeah, but then if you're talking about, people setting up a, you know, a nonprofit stuff,
Right.
if they've got a bake sale,
Yeah.
are you gonna require them to have a license?
That's what I'm saying, it's
well,
just things
yeah,
like.
like
Right,
the
that's-
Little Mountain School when they do
Right.
their bake
When they do
sale,
their
or,
bake sale.
or
I
the
mean,
church
that's-
when they do the
Well,
barbecue.
that's
Right,
right, you
the
start
you know.
getting into that.
But didn't you say something about the
Overregulation.
state has some definition of bake sales? That you're,
But
did
like,
you say
like she
that
said, the
last
church
time?
does a barbecue, you know, when we do a cookout or, you know, with the guys doing their fries on July 3rd. I just, I think
They're bringing
there
their
has to be a
own
little bit
rules.
of, you know, common sense here that
Right.
we, you know.
No, I know that, but I also, you gotta make it, so.
What about if it's a kitchen itself, you know? like in these
On-site cooking
cooks-
as opposed to off-site cooking.
Yeah, because like if you do the grills and stuff at the
So what if you were
festivals
to
and stuff,
define
the grilling
what a
hot
food
dogs
truck?
and hamburgers and stuff,
Well,
whatever, it's not a full
Or
blown
a-
kitchen, you know what I'm saying? Or if you're doing the strawberry festival and you're making the strawberry shortcakes, it's not a full blown kitchen.
So part of our task is to, what initiated this is a food truck.
Right.
So that is part of our task, is to kind of peel apart all of this and decide, food trucks should be handled differently than the mom and pop who are raising money for the little kids'
Yeah.
education and doing so with a bake sale. I mean, so we need to address those and clearly address them. The food trucks tend to present some issues. They tend to present concerns all over the place. You know, local businesses have these concerns because they're there, and then there's concerns about whether or not we should have the application too, because that needs to. Not right now, honey. I'm just saying, like, for the next meeting, if you can get us any details from the state on how they like things handled, because I know farmers markets are handled differently. Do we want to even broach those in this, you know, that whole,
I think definitions are good, just saying,
Yeah.
this is this, this is this, this
Yeah.
is this, we're talking about only this.
yeah.
Vendor, farmers markets are required to get vendor license.
They are,
Right, but,
so
but it's. an
I need to know what the
organization.
state I'd like to know what the state regulations are on them, so that we make sure we're not in conflict with
Right.
our document. So anything like that, if you could, I would appreciate it, so that we avoid any conflict with any state requirements for any of these people or any of these businesses or anybody that wants to do this. And then we really start getting into the nitty-gritty of the definitions and what a vendor could potentially be. And then as we do that, we can look at,
Once
okay,
we
what,
define it, because we haven't even defined it.
right, what, not restrictions, but what requirements do we want to apply to each of them?
Yeah.
If we want to handle those, I mean, there's different levels of vendors, and I
Right.
don't believe they should all be treated the same.
Mm.
Mhm.
And we've always had the caveat for the nonprofits.
Right, but I just want to make sure that we
Yeah.
don't in our
Yeah.
zeal. Oh, we're taking care of you. No, I don't want the government to take care of me.
No, I don't.
Let me get my common sense, please.
And just as a side thing, it says number 6 under requirements, that's what's here now, it says existing businesses who permit a vendor to operate on their property must obtain whatever. But the point is, they can operate on private property with the permission of the business. I think somewhere, which I don't see, it should say they are not allowed on public property on a recurring basis, you know, like like we have like I don't want a food truck coming up, setting up in a parking space and taking, that's public. Anybody can park in a parking space, and if they open it up,
So
Always-
you need, like, you don't want somebody using Pleasant Street parking,
yeah,
which is a public parking lot.
public, they shouldn't be able to set up in public space. They gotta be on private property with permission.
Well, that's something
Right,
we can-
but
I understand, I
yeah,
understand.
Depot
It's like-
Street,
Yeah.
Put that in bullet points under number 2.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Put it
bullet
there.
points, like they
But
must have
we
a
do a
state
lot of farmers
license,
market
they must
meetings.
not be on public
So,
property, they might be
Therein
on
lies
blah,
the,
blah,
you
blah,
know,
blah.
we're
And
kind
they're
of,
gonna be on a point where it's,
Right.
because the town is requiring a license to operate. Not only with the state, they have to have a license from us.
Right.
It says you, so within that license, you just put down, okay, you have to have your state,
Right.
main state, and then you cannot do it on a public property, and you can above, here are our requirements to achieve the license operated in the
Right.
town of Rangeley.
Right, and I don't want them setting up at a parking spot,
Yeah,
because anybody can park in a parking spot. and it's a
I'm not sure I'm
so-
in favor of a blanket. I'm thinking if you get permission for certain spots, because there might be
Yes.
times when you, for instance, the farmer's
farmer's
market meets and they use
On Depot
Depot
Street.
Street in
That's
a
public
parking
parking.
lot, it's
Public
public,
parking.
and there's a food truck, sometimes it's there. So I think you know, a blanket, you can't be in a public space is a very broad stroke. We need to be much more
And define it. in
cautious
here.
of that, yeah.
Just define it. Public parking places per the town's discretion, during seasons, blah, 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 you know, just
Yeah.
define it.
I guess I was thinking more on not
You're thinking on street parking.
street parking,
Yeah,
that's the
street
word,
parking,
no
right.
street parking, right, because then you're,
Well, street parking's at a premium anyway.
I
so-
know
drive
that.
up and down there, that was like a taco truck that serves margaritas, please. I wanted to play music.
Adult beverages.
On the
As you drive
rocks.
by. You know all those,
yes,
Kodak huts they used to have, you know, you bring your film to.
Right.
Montana, they all changed into coffee huts. We were looking for one that was doing alcohol. They're all coffee now, you drive, it's just a little wet, you're driving, get your ready to go.
Okay,
Oh my
for sure.
no, I mean, I don't know what other states have, but the only state that has drive-through drinking, as far as I know, is Louisiana.
Yes.
There
Yes.
you go.
Texas has the drive-through bars, you can just drive through and pick up your.
You can drive through bars in Texas, I didn't know that.
I knew that they used to have the grocery stores in Texas that you could drive through and pick up your booze right out of
It's one of those. But you can also get like the daiquiris, the pre-made daiquiris and stuff,
that.
Okay, so do you want
but
to?
they have, they're sealed.
I was gonna say, that starts getting into the area of drinking and
It does.
driving.
It does.
That's we don't wanna go there because that would open up the town for a
I don't
huge
need to drive.
liability.
If they don't wanna drive, I'll be the passenger.
Yeah, I know, but as soon as that happens, there's something that's.
Yeah.
So at this point, I think it's great if we all go back through this.
Yes,
If you can get us the information so that we aren't in conflict with anything state related, I would appreciate it. And if you could give us the application
Absolutely.
so that we can look that over too, because I think that's part of the muckiness of this is the application isn't very clear.
I think that's the biggest problem.
and like I said, I won't be here for the next two, so maybe, I mean, if you could email that stuff, and maybe
And I was
can I
wondering-
zoom in maybe if that's possible?
Same thing, because I'm not gonna be here for the next one, so can we like have homework and send it in, say here are our suggested
Well,
bullet points, so
If
it keeps
neither of them is
moving?
here for the next one, unless one of them's by
That's-
Zoom.
yeah, that's-
Doesn't mean we zoom in, I don't know for sure if it's gonna be possible to zoom, but I might be able to zoom.
Yeah, I don't know where.
So if you could let us know as we get closer if you can Zoom, because Zoom is a capability, especially if someone is absent. Well, that's how it's currently
Okay.
written. If someone is absent and can attend that way, then
Okay.
Okay,
yeah, it is certainly an option.
Otherwise, we will have to push off until,
right, but if you email it, then I can work on it,
Well,
because we're leaving next Thursday.
the next one's supposed to be the 15th, correct?
Right.
So
And
that would be the 1st of December.
that would push us into December 13th, well, first, yeah, December 6th is when we'd be
Yeah, I'll
on
be
the next
fine
one.
on December sixth, but the next
You
two
know.
are.
Well, the next one is
But that would be the.
November 15th, that would be
November
the,
15th is the only one.
is the only.
Oh, it's
one.
only one I'm missing, yeah, I was thinking, okay,
November
Yeah, because
15th.
it's so early, because this one's so early.
oh,
It's like right out of the gate this month. It's like,
Right, so you'd have November 15th, which
so I missed them.
we may or may not be able to do, and then
if both
Yeah.
of you were gone.
would be
Okay.
December 6th would be the.
Okay, so if you can let Marty know if Zoom is going to be a possibility, if not, then we'll
I know what the date is.
do what we need to and we'll move it to the
Right.
December 6th.
Yeah, that's fine.
The earlier the better, so if you can let me know by the 8th, that still gives me time to post or not post.
December.
That's,
See
yeah,
next Wednesday.
so we can tell.
Okay.
That's possible, I can't.
So that's okay. So because we are kind of at a
Central Time.
standstill, unless you want to continue to discuss it. I think we're good with,
I think.
I'd call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
I heard motions and seconds everywhere. You could, it's your pleasure, you take whoever's name you want.
I heard the ones,
All
the ones I can hear.
All in favor? Perfect, thank you so much, folks.
So this is the one I gotta keep. And I don't need any of these.